Start time is 10:54. Hi, I just want to say thank you to everyone for all of your concerns. I received a ton of email, with people realizing that I live here in the San Diego area. But again, I just want to thank you. I'm very, it really touched me, all of your concerns. And to let you know, I am okay. You probably recently saw my picture on my blog. That was my backyard. It looks like the sun and the clouds, but it's actually just the smog and the haze from the fire that was going overhead. I'm not actually close to the fires. They're on the surrounding areas, so that was a relief. So, okay, now I want to give you, to share with you my experience. Before, normally on my blog, I'm behind videotaping things, but I'm actually going to turn it around this time and sign and give you the information that way. It was just an awesome experience. And I enjoy volunteering at the DCS. I do some of their editing, things like that for them. So I was excited, and that day I went down there. I was all motivated, ready to work. They was like, no, we need you to go to the Quantum Stadium. I was like, okay, that's a really big deal for me to go down there. What an experience. So I was like, okay. So once all the details were worked out, there was a couple of the other staff members, and we all got in the car and started to head down there. Now, it's not that far away. It's, just around the ways a little bit. So when we got close to the stadium, the traffic was horrific, just bumper to bumper, barely moving. People were in their car. There was so many emotions, people frustrated, people with just a glazed look on their face. It was just crazy. There was road rage. There was everything. Normally traffic through here is really smooth, but not this day. There was yelling and arguing. Oh my goodness, it was just crazy. So we finally parked and got to walk in, and we arrived in the stadium. And again, I was just looking around, just crazy, and we were walking and trying to find the booth, and people were just everywhere inside too, just walking around. There was food and drink. There was plenty of that. People were eating and drinking. So the three of us, just continued to walk, and we finally found the DCF booth. The people were so excited to see us. We were like a breath of fresh air just to finally see some new faces. The people were so spent and just exhausted from their experiences there. So I sat down, and the interpreter, she explained what had been going on the past 2 days. I just sat in awe, just like, wow, my goodness. Honestly, I was thinking, why in the world would they have, an interpreter booth sitting up here? She was explaining things to me, and I was just like, it was really serious, really serious. I was just so appreciative. Normally people's vision of interpreter, they're just giving out information, help, but not this time. Their focus was making sure that everyone had equal access to communication. That was their goal. There was a loudspeaker that was giving out information to the people. It would let them know things like where the blankets were, where you could find food, where you could go to find the sleeping quarters, where the clinics were. It was just giving out all these directions and instructions to people. Well, hearing people had access to all this information, but deaf people didn't. They didn't know what was going up. They didn't know what was going on. They were also informing people over the loudspeaker of areas that had been evacuated and were still being evacuated, or areas that were, deemed safe to return home. Well, again, deaf people had no access to this communication. If their area was okay to return home, they missed the opportunity. So we were encouraging, deaf people to stay near the DCS booth so the interpreters could inform them of this information. We were telling them, please stay near gate A. We have interpreters there ready to help you. And also, if you have a deaf person that that's living in an area that's being evacuated, make sure you Let them know. If you have a family member or a friend, just send them a quick text and, keep them abroad on what's going on. It really helps the deaf community. As I was looking and watching, I was just so thankful for the interpreters. I mean, what a huge responsibility they had on their shoulders. They were running around to the security booths, and to the clinics and all the other booths, just giving information to people. And they would do this periodically through the day. And if they saw a deaf person signing or with a hearing aid, they would tell them, go to gate A. So, and also the booths were switching workers all day long, and they were not passing along the information. So the interpreters really had to work hard. It was a tasking day for them. I also saw this boy, which I really appreciate. He was carrying a sign asking if you were deaf to go to gate A. And he walked around all day showing that to people. Some deaf people would come up to me, and some were not interested in signing up for my blog, which was fine. Others were, but I convinced them to, share their stories. I haven't put them all up on the blog yet, but I will get them posted. I want everyone to be able to, look at their stories. They were telling me how it was awkward, when they were at home, just the feeling, they were waiting. They knew the fires, were close, but they didn't know what to do. It was just awkward for them. It was a very chaotic time. They also don't understand this concept of reverse 911 and what it means. Because normally, you would call 911, but reverse 911, the emergency system contacts you with the information. Whether it be with the helicopter or the firemen or the police, and they're driving around with the loudspeaker. Well, that's great for a hearing person, but the deaf people don't have access to that. It's a barrier. So when the emergency personnel come up to the door, they're angry. They're like, get out! And they may think that the deaf people are protesting, or they're just, so connected to their home that they won't leave. And that's not the case. They didn't have access to the information. They couldn't hear. So by the time, they're writing notes and telling them to go and communication is achieved, they're barely making it out on time. It's just, wow. It's really, affecting people's emotions. I mean, the situation is taxing enough without adding a communication barrier. But the DCS, they're trying to work and develop, a better system of communication. They want to establish perfect communication access for everyone. There's different ways than just one way of someone knocking on your door. They want to, expose other avenues that we can better our communication. And I'm really happy to report that there's been no deaths of deaf people in the deaf community. I'm really relieved of that. It's good to hear. And I want to let you know that DCS, they're trying to contact and really get through the red tape with the OCE, which is the Office of Emergency Services. They want to make sure, that communication is achieved. Closed captioning is good, but not all deaf people read English closed captioning, and they bring in interpreters too, and, that can help too. But it's, it's just it needs improving. So they're working, they're motivated, It's important that we get this achieved so we can have early communication. With everything that I've saw and I've read, and I really understand now that we need to improve our education. I can't say how important it is for us to have access to communication before an emergency situation. And I'm happy to say we are working towards that. We're moving through and we are progressing. Stop time is 11:04.